Hey YouTube, we're back on another project today. We just had another snowstorm blow through here in Missouri, so we're inside working again. We've got the floor heat running. There's some stuff that still needs to be tied up there. But today we're going to get started on the first steps of doing some framing. So the first thing we're going to do is frame the bathroom over there in the corner of the building. But before that, we've got some stuff that we need to do to prep some of our materials. So this unit of lumber over here is one of the better decisions that I made when I was acquiring materials and stuff to start this project, and also one of the things that I could have done better. So this is a complete unit of 8-foot 2x4s. And I bought these at a building material auction along with a unit of 12-footers. So the idea was that these would become my studs. And I paid what averaged out to be $1.25 a piece. So with that, right now the prices, I just checked prices at a local box store, and studs are at $8.39. So by using these, I'll be saving over $7 a stud. And I figure I need about 150 of them, so that's going to be a pretty sizable savings by using them. The problem is, like I said, is these are 8-footers, so I need to cut them down to 92 5/8. The other problem is that I bought these a couple years ago, and unfortunately, they spent the majority of that time outside. Now I did keep them up off the ground. I had them up on pallets, and I kept tarps over it, but inevitably water was still able to get into the stack. So there's going to be several. You can see some of that stuff growing on the side, kind of fungus stuff. There's going to be several that I'm going to have to cull out of here, stuff that I don't want to use. I imagine there's probably some rot in the middle where moisture was trapped in there for a while and it wasn't able to dry out. I've used several boards out of it. I used several on the goat barn project, so I know there's going to be some good boards in there. There's approximately 250 here, and I need, like I said, 150, so hopefully I can get everything I need out of it. Also, I've got all those 12-footers that I can sort through. I just hate to cut down 12-foot boards to 92 5/8 for my studs. So that's our project for today. I want to sort through most of this, get as many of them cut as I can, or at least get through and cut what I need. So we're going to work on that. To do that, so I've got my miter saw set up on a little stand I built for it. I've got a roller stand here, and I'm going to build, well, not really build, but set up a guide basically so that I can just lay these boards in here, chop them off, and move them over to the other stack. So we'll get started. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some scraps and do some cuts with a miter saw. So this is a Craftsman miter saw. It's a nice enough quality, but it's got the quick lock positions for the different angles. So with that, there's a little bit of play in there. If I'm going to do this many cuts, I'd like to make sure that I really am square. So I'm going to do a couple test cuts and check it with a square just to kind of dial in the position here, and then we'll get to work on setting up our stop so that we can cut these studs as quick as possible. That actually looks really good. So I'm going to do it again. Cut another cut this way to make sure my blade is good that way. Not that it'll make as much of a difference, but apparently I need to. So going that way, it's actually not that great. It needs to tilt to the left a little bit, so we just as well fix that while we're working here. Let's see what that does. That is much better, so I think that will work. So now we've got the saw cutting straight. To make our guide, I think what I'm going to do is I've got this 2x4. This, both of these are fairly straight, and there's some holes in the fence of the miter saw. So I think what I'm going to do is screw that in place to make that rigid, and then I'm going to take this board to give it a little bit more rigidity and a place just to set my stud that I'm cutting. I'll screw it on the bottom like that, make a little bit of a fence, and then we'll be able to have a stop block that we can move to set our length. So first thing I'm going to do is screw these boards together. And before I screw that into the back, I'm going to grab a level and make sure we're not holding anything crooked. Okay, we've got the fence on. What I ended up doing was pulling that back fence board in so that I could cut it with the saw, and then that would give me a good reference point to measure off of. So we got the tape pulled down here. We've got our stop block just clamped on for right now. We're set. Get the tape straight. We're set at right at 92 5/8. So we're going to give this a try, cut a couple boards. If it works out, I'll shoot some screws in there just to make sure it doesn't move, and then we'll be cutting away. That's better. We're not quite, oh yeah, that's good. Right there. Right on. So now rinse and repeat 150 times, I guess, and figure out what to do with all these blocks. I guess they'll go in the wood stove. Okay, it got dark on us. I had to take a little break for a while, do some other stuff, but we just got through the entire stack, and this is what we've got. So these are all my studs, and unfortunately, these are not my studs. These are all boards that some of them are okay. I'll probably save several of them for other projects, for sheds, for shelves, for whatever. I can use them for that kind of stuff, but I just hate to put them behind drywall in my house. There's also a lot of firewood in here. Some of these boards were sorted into this pile by me slapping the end on the concrete floor and the board breaking in half. So that kind of stuff I'm just going to get rid of. There's no point in keeping it around. But I will save some of the lesser boards for other projects. For this, everything's pretty good in here. I'm going to go back through these. I'm going to stack them up nicer and sort through them one more time again. I think at the very beginning I was probably a little more lenient than I should have been, so there will probably be a few that I cull back out, and then obviously as I use them I'll keep track and make sure I don't use anything bad. But the jig and the miter saw held up pretty good, and we're through the entire pile. So we'll go back through all these again, sort them out, cut firewood lengths, and that'll wrap it up. I'll come back probably tomorrow and see how many boards we ended up with. Well, this is what we ended up with. We've got about 108 studs cut. Not quite as many as I wanted to cut, but after going through that pile last night, I just wasn't comfortable with using those as framing for the house. I had Dad come over and give me a second opinion, and he agreed that a lot of them were just a little too soft. They were sitting out in that pile. They got too much moisture and sat for too long. So I ended up cutting a bunch of my 12-footers up. That's what all these nice boards are. They were, for whatever reason, there was no water leaks or anything on them, so they're a lot nicer lumber. And of the other lumber, over here in the corner, you can see all the ends that I cut off the 12-footers, and then the full length 8-foot boards, those were in the pile that I was going to go through to save for sheds and stuff. And then we've got the studs that I cut that I just wasn't really comfortable with using, so I'll have those. They'll go into an outbuilding or something, or we'll be able to use them, put shelves up or what have you. So we've got all that to use yet. I just didn't get to use them as studs the way I wanted to. So the way it came out, I cut up as many 12-footers that I was comfortable with. I'm going to need several 12-footers to build walls on the second floor, where I'm going to need some taller studs, so I didn't want to use all of them. But I figure with all of this, even with things kind of not going so well, paying for all this rotted wood, and I'll show, you can see the stack of firewood that I cut out there. We're going to end up with about $700 total in my studs, framing lumber. I just did kind of a rough calculation a minute ago, and it looks like I would have spent a little over $2,000 had I had to buy all this new. So it panned out okay. If studs were still $3 a piece, it wouldn't have gone so well, but obviously that's not what's going on right now. And but lesson learned on storing stuff outside and having a place for it to go. It was a good deal, only paying $1.25 and for the 8-footers and $1.50 for the 12-footers. But if you don't have a place for them to go, or you're not ready to quite use them yet, you got to be careful about the waste that you might end up with. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see in the future. See you later.